So back inside, Betty's mom, Charlotte, is busy calling the Horry County Coroner's Office trying to find out what's going on. Horry County was the county of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Through her conversation, she confirmed our worst nightmare, the life-shattering truth that Corey had fallen 6 stories from a hotel window to his death. It was approximately 8:30 p.m. when he died. He was surrounded by friends. His friends had to see him laying there, dead with their own eyes. So it was true. What now? How do you go on living without the centerpiece of your life? I'm thinking, why God? Why did you let this happen? I prayed to you many times every day that you would take care of my son, that you'd bless him and protect him. Are all my prayers worthless? Just empty words? Why, Lord, are you doing this to me? I just rededicated my life to you. Life is over. My life is over. Give me a drink. First thing I'm thinking, no, I can't do that. I remember calling my parents to tell them what happened. Dad answered, and I told him that Corey had fallen to his death. And he said, now, come on, Chris. I said, Dad, it's true. He could tell I was serious. So Dad and Mom packed up and drove to the house. It was probably around midnight when they got there. I remember I was in the backyard. I don't know what Betty and her mom was doing inside. I guess making phone calls, something that I didn't want no part of. I remember Mom and Dad getting out of the car and giving me a hug, started crying. Remember Mom went inside with Betty and Charlotte and Taylor. And Taylor was working on that get well card for Corey. Betty began calling our clients, letting them know what happened. One client in particular was in Myrtle Beach on vacation and tried to find out what was going on, but he was not allowed near the crime scene, even though he was Corey's family doctor. He told Betty that he would close the office if we needed to, so we had time to heal. It was a wonderful offer, but we would have to close his office for over a week or so, and we couldn't do that. So we told him thanks, but you know, we'll stay caught up somehow. I remember Dad and I staying outside. He asked me some of the details, and I told him what had happened. He asked me what I wanted, and I said, get me a bottle of booze. I'm getting drunk. And he said, is that what you want? And I said, no. But I was lost. Mom and Dad left sometime in the early morning hours of June 12th. I know more happened, but quite honestly, I don't remember that night that much because I'm in such shock and disbelief and thinking maybe this is just a bad dream. Maybe this is just a big game. Maybe Corey just needed a break from life, and he went down there and told everybody to let everybody think he was gone so he could just go away because he was under so much stress in his life. I remember going inside that evening. Many hugs and tears would follow until Betty and I would get into bed. No sleep would come that night. And as we lay in bed holding hands, I remember laying on my back, tears streaming down my face, filling our ears with tears. That's where they went, into our ears. Sleep would come for a moment. I would wake up forgetting for a split second, and then the sting hit me, punched me in the gut. That dull ache hit me, that ringing in my ears present again. This would be the beginning of the new normal. That day marked the end of my routine of getting up at 10 till 6 every morning and to bed by 10. I would get up by alarm only if I had to. Otherwise, to this day, I get up and go to bed when I feel like it. My new normal. June 12th, the day was filled with Betty's mom and Betty, and mom and dad making calls to family and friends. Not me. Oh no, I was just barely breathing. Good enough for now. Life was over. Now, I want to make something clear. Even in my darkest moments, even to this day, I never wanted to kill myself. I love and fear my Lord way too much to take that chance. And it would have been a much easier choice just to be with Corey. But I have family here that loves me. So, I don't know who said it. It's like, it's so true. I have one foot on earth and one foot in heaven. I can't wait to be with my son and be with my Savior. But I've got a family here that needs me, and I've got other people that need to hear what I have to say to possibly win them to my Lord and Savior before I go. My first order for the day, June 12th, was to tell Taylor what really happened to Corey. I remember going over to Taylor and sitting. She was sitting on the couch. I got down on one knee in front of her, and I told her that Corey had died the night before, and he went to be with Jesus. That was so hard. She got up. She was upset. She cried, and she walked down the hall. That about broke my heart. It seemed like a short time later, she came back out. She said, "Dad, is Corey dead?" And I said, "Yes, he is." She said, "Okay." See, we raised Taylor to think that, and to know that if someone believes in Jesus in life, when they die, that they'll be with Christ in a beautiful place called heaven. And in her childlike faith, she believed that. So everything was fine. It's kind of like life went on as normal. And Betty and I, on the other hand, were in a dark place, wanting the entire world to stop and mourn with us. And for a brief time it did. I do not remember specifics, but as the day wore on, neighbors came over to grieve with us, calls came in, condolences were coming from every direction. I remember thinking as the sun was setting on my first full day of a new normal, life without Corey, life without legs, life with half a heart. None of Corey's friends had called. That really hurt. But night would eventually give way to some sleep. Once again, Betty and I holding hands with tears streaming to the pillow beneath our numb heads, fully expecting to grieve myself to death by morning. My heart ached and felt so heavy. I closed my eyes to join my Savior. June 13th. Again, I awake, forgetting for a split second this nightmare. And then it hits. The dull ache in my heart, this ringing in my ears, total numbness and disbelief. It hit me. The day Corey died, I didn't do my Bible study with the Lord first thing in the morning. My prayers, my Bible studies. Had God somehow lifted his hand off of Corey because of the sins of the father, me? Probably not, but just another tormented thought that would be my constant companion, and different thoughts like that throughout the last 7 years. But thank God I have a Savior that helps me to bury those, to realize that that's just Satan. Friday, funeral arrangements are being made, showings, church service, a video slideshow of Corey's life from Betty's perspective behind the camera lens. We had, well, Betty, taken boxes full of pictures of Corey's life and during sports. Many, many pictures of his brief life. One of Corey's friends would make a beautiful video slideshow for the funeral home. This was all surreal. I felt like someone needed to wake me up. See, my entire life, I had this attitude that if I didn't want to deal with something, I could just walk away. I'd just ignore it. It'd go away. There was no escaping this. This was real. This was playing for keeps. And this was changing who I was and how I thought every moment of every day. Well, finally, Corey's friends would call Friday evening and wanted very much to see me. They were scared to call. They were worried that Knowing how close Corey and I were, I would be so devastated that they wouldn't be able to handle it. So they were kind of scared to call, and their feelings were justified because I was devastated. But it was in those early days I remember reminding all of Corey's friends that they were helping me with their youthfulnesses and stories about Corey, and I wanted them around me. It was essential at first, but as time has gone on, I kind of resented them in a way for being alive instead of Corey. I know that's unfair to them, but again, it's another of the many things and thoughts that I would battle. June 14th, Saturday. Let me stop here for a sec. I know I'm listing these days out one day, but there's a reason. I want everyone listening to this to feel it. I want them to feel that loss. I want them to understand the pain and the life-changing events that the death of a child can cause you. And I will tell you right now, I would have lost my mind, drank myself to death if not for my faith in Jesus Christ. So it's important for me to detail this out. I still fight the anger. I still fight the questioning myself, but not out of belief. Anyway, just stick with me here on this, okay? Please stick with me. So we're on Saturday, June 14th. So Corey's gone now 3 days. The sting of death, the aching heart, the ringing ears, still my constant companions. I have still not done a Bible study since Corey passed away. I'm outside many times a day talking to Corey and shouting at God. I was mad at God for letting Corey die. Betty reminded me that we all have free will and that God would never have wanted Corey to die that way. I did not stop praying, but I was wrestling it out with God. There's a story in the Old Testament about Jacob, and he wrestled with an angel of the Lord until the angel blessed him. And listen, I'm not comparing myself to Jacob because he's a patriarch of the Old Testament. He's one of the greats. But it was much the same for me. You know, God was so gracious to let me just yell and scream and kick and punch and fight. And I know I promised God if he would never let go of me that I would never lose my faith in him. And I know you can't bargain with God, but that was my life in 2008. Saturday, Corey's friends came over, and it was so good to see them. We hugged and cried. Several of them spent the night, as Saturday would fade into Sunday and would be Father's Day, which happened to be the first showing of Corey in the funeral home. One of Corey's friends bought some stuff for me for Father's Day in honor of Corey. Such a wonderful expression of this friend's love for Corey. What a blessing. Well, we stayed up late sharing stories of Corey, and it was another short night. So by Sunday, we're just living on adrenaline and fumes, not eating, not sleeping. I woke up Sunday with my new friend's heartache, shock, and dull feeling, and that ringing in my ears. Today's Father's Day. See, I've got a dad that needs to be honored on Father's Day, and how am I supposed to honor my dad when I'm in such grief? I couldn't do it. And he knew it, and he understood, and he was completely understanding. Well, this would be the first showing of seeing my son lying in a casket. And forever, Father's Day is now scarred for me, even though I've got Taylor, such a wonderful daughter, such a bright little shining star in my life, with her humor. She's really helped keep me sane in that youthfulness between Betty and our deep talks and everything. I'm so grateful for her. She's given me an adult perspective on things, and Taylor gives me that youthful, innocent, wonderful laughter and humor, and she is a blessing. Both Betty and Taylor are blessings. Well, I decided that there's no way that I was going to gaze upon my son laying in a casket No way. We wanted a closed casket, and we wanted the first day of the showing to be the day after Father's Day. But that would not happen. Either one. Open casket, Father's Day, first showing. Can I run away? This sucks. This happens to other families, not mine. Well, as irony would have it, one of Corey's friends called and wanted me to meet him at the funeral home before the first showing so he could see Corey in his casket and grieve without others there. He wanted closure. Well, you see, I decided I wasn't going to look at Corey laying in his casket. So now what am I supposed to do? Well, I had to be there for Corey's friends. So Betty and I, we left Taylor at home with Charlotte. I didn't want her to see Corey like that. I didn't want her to be any part of this. What another blessing from God. Charlotte was coming up and hanging out with us around that time, helped us around the house because we were so busy with our business. She was helping with Taylor, and she happened to be there that night when Corey passed away. She was like a little angel there for us, running interference with Taylor and keeping the house going. Giving Betty somebody to talk to because I wasn't anybody to talk to. So anyway, we get to the funeral home. Mom and Dad are coming shortly behind. And as we walked in the funeral home, I felt like I was walking in quicksand. My legs were heavy as my heart. Arm in arm with Corey's friend, I went to the casket. And I'm thinking, how am I supposed to do this? I felt like I was going to puke or pass out. And wham, there he was. That beloved, sweet, sturdy, beautiful son, lying in a casket with his 45 jersey on. That was not my son lying there. I touched his hair and I kissed his forehead. I was numb. No tears. I had no tears. There was nothing there. I was on empty. And you know, it's funny. There was one showing that night, that Sunday night on Father's Day. And then there'd be two the next day on Monday, and then one the following day at the actual funeral at the church. I never realized during the course of those showings that people were watching us. They were watching our emotions. Were we crying at the right time? Did you just smile? Too quiet? Too talkative? What the heck is this? I never realized it. I felt like I was on show. I felt like I was on display. You know, I'll never forget. I didn't get near the casket once I looked upon him. I sat back. I sat in a corner, Betty beside me, and two dear friends from years ago were there, and they stayed by our side the whole time. And at the time, I was shaving my head and had a goatee, and people were filing by, this endless line of people just coming and coming. I've never seen anything like it. And this guy gives me a hug and he says, "Sorry for your loss." And I sit back down because there's kind of a break for a moment. And my buddy leans up to me to break the tension and he says, "He's talking about your hair." And I started to giggle. But you see, the problem with that was there were people standing in line that saw me giggling. So here I am, the father of a son lying in his casket. It just died. And I'm laughing. Anyway, what a nightmare. What a tragedy. Wake me up, Lord. Why? Why? Oh my gosh. So the night ended. I don't remember much about that evening. I know I hung out with Dad some to honor him for Father's Day as best I could. It wasn't much. Monday, June 16th, 2 more showings and endless people showing up. Each morning I wake up with my heartache. Each night I close my eyes, certain that I will not see the morning light. That Monday on June 16th, we got there just a little bit late for the first showing. And by the time I got there, I could not get in to the funeral home for so many people greeting me outside. The line was around the building. I have never in my entire life, unless it was a celebrity or a professional athlete or some politician or president, I have never seen such an outpouring of love and compassion and respect from so many people. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Again, a blur. I mean, when your whole day Monday is leading up to 2 showings back to back Monday night, what is that? I mean, you can't even live your life. Food doesn't taste good anymore. Nothing seems right anymore. I'm still not working. I can't even think about anything. So, same thing. Go to bed. Sure, I'm going to die. Grieving myself to death. My heart's going to explode right through my chest. I wake up Tuesday morning, June 17th. Well, today's the day, the final showing at the church. This is a large church. The church is packed. Family and friends everywhere. And there's Corey's casket open in front of us just below the pastor. Different people have chosen to speak that day. I wrote a letter, as did Betty, saying goodbye. We had friends read our letters to Corey because we couldn't do it. The service was full of crying and some laughter as folks took turns remembering Corey. I remember Corey's football coach spoke, and at one point he said when Corey fell through that window, he was breaking into heaven because God needed Corey on his team. And that was so beautiful. And the service was on Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And I remember the pastor talking on that. I gave him those scriptures because those scriptures would become that's my life verses. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths. I mean, this is beyond me, and I know this didn't happen to Corey, and I don't believe it's your time is up, that God's taken you at a certain time, an appointed time. I know there's an appointed time to die, once for all men to die, but it was not God's will for Corey to go through that window, break his neck on the air conditioning unit 1 story below, and then finish himself off on the pavement 6 stories down. There's no way. That was not God's will. That was our free will, and that's what God gives us. So Corey was to be cremated, and that was his wish, and I verified that wish. Him and his friends. I mean, another thing, it's like Corey was on a farewell tour the whole last year of his life, visiting friends he hadn't seen. He'd just knock on their door, come in and hang out. We had people telling us all these things that happened to Corey's last year, and it all started making sense. I had this endless desire, frantic to be with Corey, just to even drive all the way down to Logan, which is a 30-minute drive for us, just to see him for a half hour, have some McDonald's or something, or meet him at Walmart and just walk around with him for 20 minutes, a half hour, just to see him. I mean, it was crazy. So him and one of his friends had talked about if they died, what they wanted to have happen, and they both decided they wanted to be cremated and have their ashes sprinkled down in Old Man's Cave in Logan, Ohio, or on the beach in Florida somewhere. So his friend verified it, and that's what Corey wanted. The funeral ends, and with a dull thud, it's over. It's over. It's done. Mom and Dad and Betty and I went out to eat, shared some memories, talked, and Betty and I went home. We went home and sat down at our desks and tried to figure out what are we going to do. So we just started working. We didn't know what else to do with our lives or ourselves. So this would be the first time in my life that I discovered I had no focus. Betty and I would work for an hour or two, hop in the car, and drive. Charlotte would watch Taylor run interference for us in life as we took off running like 2 aimless people with no direction.